Welcome to yet another pastor's briefing. This week in our church, we are reading through Luke chapters 21 through 24 and also Acts chapter 1. I'd like to share just a few thoughts from my reading of Luke chapter 22. In this chapter, we find the religious leaders scheming to kill Jesus. Judas Iscariot agrees that he will betray his master. The scene immediately then switches to the Passover, in which Jesus instituted the Lord's Supper, and he prophesied his betrayal. The disciples were very confused about this. Who would betray Jesus? But in the midst of that confusion, they began to argue over who was greatest in God's kingdom. In fact, chapter 22, verse 24 says, "A dispute also arose among them as to which of them was to be regarded as the greatest." You know, it's really sad in the midst of trying to prove that you will be faithful to Christ, that you begin to argue that you're greater spiritually than someone else. It's incredibly ironic that the disciples did this on the last night before Jesus' betrayal and death. He had just told them that he was going to be betrayed, and yet what animated them most was who was greatest in God's kingdom. But there's similar arguments today, where the point is forgotten and the argument becomes about one's selfish agenda. Instead of dealing with the spiritual issue in our hearts, we begin to argue over some issue in which our pride is damaged. What is happening? We are avoiding being honest with ourselves and with God. We are refusing to be accountable before God and others. If we continue down this path, it leads to hypocrisy, spiritual blindness. So I want to ask you, when you hear spiritual truth, is your first concern other people who need to hear this, you think? Or do you first apply it to your life with confession, repentance, and obedience?